Hey, what's up, guys? What is this? Well, these are, as you see, I've had these books for a while. I've actually had them for almost 20 years. These are books on Halloween. Obviously, David J. Skal, you're familiar with. I did a video about some of his stuff. But who is this guy? This is another writer, Nicholas Rodgers. Not really a writer. I believe he is a professor or was a professor at a university in Toronto. Somewhere in Canada. Maybe DFC Sons, you would know. Like there's one university in Toronto. I'm sure there's plenty. But the interesting thing about these books, okay, straight up, they came out at the same time, October 2002. I remember that. So it was a cold Halloween. I remember that year. Um, the crazy thing about it was these two books are so similar in what they cover to each other that you think you'd think that there was some kind of plagiarism going on, and who plagiarized who, I can't tell. The thing is that I'm gonna be honest, I don't think that that's what happened in this. I think this is the rare case of parallel development of similar themes, and I think the clue goes to the fact that both men are pretty similar. I mentioned Skal as left wing openly gay guy. I think Rogers alludes to that as well. Of course, they're both baby boomers, right? They would be the monster kid generation as well. Learned, educated people from. I'm not sure what Skal is from. I think he's from California, but you get what I'm saying. Very similar men covering, a holiday that it is a North American holiday, even though its origins are not. Its origins aren't just the British Isles. Its origins go into all continental Europe, from north and south. But anyway, what I'm getting at is here. If you look at the table of contents, okay, there's some differences. For example, Skal starts his book out starting with what became like the beginning of the urban legend. I remember, by the way, I remember all of this stuff growing up as a kid. I grew up in the late '70s and the whole of the '80s and into the '90s. Right? He talks about the Candyman's tale. I remember the poison candy scares, the razor blade in the apple, like pins and candy corn, Drano and friggin' the pixie dust, all that stuff. Right? Essentially, that was an urban legend. Okay, but there, because the whole time was I'll get to it later, but it was a uncertain, violent time. Halloween was an extremely, in my opinion, in urban cities, was a very violent holiday. But anyway, he covers this guy who poisoned his kid for insurance money, real scumbag. But at the time, when I remember it, it was just in the wake of, I mentioned before, the Tylenol scare. Somebody who they never found, okay, poisoned randomly Tylenol caplets, and I forgot how many people it killed, but it killed a bunch of people, and it was a huge news story as a kid. It's one of the earliest stories I remember. That and John Lennon getting shot, going back in time there. But pretty much him and Mr. Rogers, they cover similar things. The origins of it, as mostly is essentially a Celtic holiday, but you had it because you had Celts in the continent, and you also had other pagan holidays in Rome around that time. Okay, they cover how it came over. It came over with basically the Irish immigration into America and the Irish and Scottish immigration into Canada. He gives a Canadian perspective on this that made me see that it was huge in Canada. Okay. They also cover like the what I like in terms of the decadent part of it, the mayhem, especially in the '60s, '70s, '80s, and into the '90s. Okay, that period of time is the time I grew up at, and that period of time is probably what we're going to go back to and worse. But the fact that they cover that, and that both of these men, despite being liberal, very liberal and open-minded, and what they would say as progressive-minded, even they admit that the fears, the social order being overturned, not only was probably not a good thing when all is said and done, but that the fears that people had were not made up; they were legitimate. Okay? And also they also have like a section on the LGBT, the gay community, right? The devil on Castro Street, sort of taking to Halloween as a holiday. It makes sense as masquerades. Men dressing as women, women dressing as men. I mean, really, in the end, what is Halloween? In terms of, it's a North American uh, carnival. Okay, now obviously you had carnival in the, like New Orleans and places where that were developed by others, by French and Spanish people. You had a version of that, but essentially Halloween became the American carnival. Okay, with all the fun and problems and things that went along with that, but with, I would say, a violent edge. Okay, so, and of course they also end with Halloween at the Millennium. Okay, these things came out in 2002. They both mention, right, as an end cap to both of them. They also cover Halloween, in like the Halloween Goes Hollywood, Halloween on Screen. They also cover, they both cover September 11th. Okay, because it was a month before Halloween. Obviously, I told you my reminiscence on the September 11th, the last one I'll ever do, in a video I did about a month ago or so. But the similarities, even down to the format, it's very curious. And like I said, my hypothesis is that these just men are so similar that they cover the same things. Okay, and Skal even uses like the term boomerism. It's kind of funny. So of the two, which one do I like the better? I actually like Rodgers' book a little better. Okay, the history of it, I like the especially when he covers how it came over. Let's see. Those damn Romans. Yeah. You're trying to justify wiping out the Keltoi, huh? I mean, Jesus Christ. Was it 2 million Caesar wiped out? Anyway, we're beyond good and evil. And you call it coming over, right? I'll go through one at a time here, Okay, the Puritans in New England, right? Detested the holiday. Okay, increased matter. Listen, the name I have, In These Goings Down, was coined by Increased Mather, In These Goings Down of the Sun, in reference to what was going on in King Philip's War. Okay, the war between the the Indians that were caught between the Congregationalists and other Indians that were helping them. Right, we went over that with my buddy James. But obviously, Saints Day, right? That's what it is. I mean, what is Halloween? It's like the eve of All Saints. Okay, it is Catholic. It is older than that, but it was integrated into Catholicism. Okay, but Puritans would have no place for that, none at all. I mean, they wouldn't. They didn't have no place for what was it? A Christmas tide. They didn't have Christmas. Forget it. They had no Christmas either. Okay? But pretty much, like I said, I think it was mentioned in this book. Wherever the Irish went, and of course the Scots, wherever they went in the New World, Halloween followed. And so I kind of like, I really, they have wood prints and they have photos, but they have like a lot of good stuff here. Like, look, Halloween pranks in New York City, 1907. Okay, they used to, what is it, the flour. You used to fill a big sock or sack with flour, hit people with it, right? So 1907, you already have all this stuff. Thanksgiving, you also had hooliganism going on too, and that never went away from the late 1800s all the way up until the 90s. Like this here, like that. Stop it now, boys. Right? He's saying boys with the Irish accent, strong Irish accent. And I like this thing here, Williams Jennings Bryan. Okay, the last Democrat that I would have voted for back when, I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference, but around this time, yours truly is left of center strongly. Eugene Debs, Jack London. Actually, I'm even a fan of the Wobblies. Okay, let me not go any further into that, but. Okay, Razor and the Apple. This is Rodgers' chapter on the mayhem. Right, the struggle for a safe and sane Halloween. Now they always try to mention that, well, Halloween, like the Halloween parades or civic things, they try to make it more of a kids' holiday to try to restrict the hooliganism and stuff that was going on. Okay, mind you, it wasn't just the cities. You had this stuff going on in rural areas. I mean, Halloween is a harvest. In the end, it is a time marking the harvest. But I mean, listen, when I was growing up, man, when I was real little, I mentioned Halloween was fun. But as soon as I got a little older, man, it was, getting hit with eggs was like was like mild stuff. There were people getting their asses kicked and worse. I know a kid that got slashed with a box cutter walking home from the train. It was Coney Island kids that did it. So, and I don't have to tell you what that means that they were Coney Island kids. Right. And some of the older East Coast cities like Camden, New Jersey, Halloween retained this rougher edge. Yeah, no kidding. Jeez. Of course, he's talking about America, the United States of America, and Devil's Night, right? The whole idea of Devil's Night. That's Detroit. That's a Detroit thing. I don't even know. It probably still happens. Essentially, the night before Halloween in America, probably in Canada too. It's called different things: Mischief Night, Devil's Night, Goosey Night. It's actually when a lot of the stuff was being done. I did something once on the Mischief Night that was actually kind of, I guess I could say it could be technically kind of dangerous, but I thought it was funny. But I'll tell you that some other time. Right, I like this. Cities came to be seen as unsafe, bro. Back then, when you had reliable numbers, right? Back then, when you had reliable numbers, you never had such crime. Okay, not even in the late 1800s, in the gangs in New York days, in the Bowery, you didn't have the level of crime that you had basically from the time I was born until the time I was into my mid-20s. And it's coming back. But hey, we're talking about Halloween here. All right. And, so, of course, we got a little stepping out. Hey. After years of decline. Yeah, you tell me about it. It's all about decline. So, one more thing that I like about Rodgers that he mentioned something that I always remembered in off passing about, here we go, Halloween at the Millennium. Right there, that's kind of cool, right? The harvest. Well, Halloween at the Millennium is contested and in many respects is a controversial holiday. Well, now, Halloween is essentially going to be, it's going to become as the demographics really shift in America. Is this going to be another party night? I already tell you, it's the American Carnival. Okay, some people refer to it as dress as a slut night. Okay, but essentially it's going to be like an American Carnival and people just going out, as an adult holiday. So trick or treating is going to be very rare in the cities. It's more like where I'm at now. You're going to have that, but for example, Pennsylvania, trick or treating is strictly regulated. They have it on a specific day and a specific time, and you got to follow that, which I hated as a kid. It was more chaotic in New York, but you could score more stuff, but you risked getting hit with an egg or worse, right? Right. To be sure, Halloween still retains some vestigial links to the harvest. Right, pumpkins and apples are part of fair. Right. In some places, of course, the seasonal association is still critical, right? In the rural areas of America, Halloween is the marker of the hunting season, right? November is when the deer start rutting. That's when you go out and hunt. Now that bow hunting's big, you could bow hunt in October. But really, the best time to go hunting is when it's cold out, when your deer are moving around, rutting, fighting each other to mate with the females. That's the time to hunt them, and that's November into December. And so it was a marker of that time. So I thought that was interesting he mentioned that. But I'm not gonna, the Skal book is also good. He covers a lot of things too. He covers how violent the Halloween parade in New York, and of course they had, in San Francisco. You can imagine they had also how violent it was. I went to the Halloween parade, right, the Greenwich Village parade. I went with my girl. I went once. I remember people going there for years. So the one time I went there was 2003. I'm not gonna lie, I saw 7 people that night get knocked the fuck out. Okay, and 2 of them were women. Okay, I have other stories about that, but he talks about that. Right, there's that creep that poisoned his son. Yeah. And I say he also has some good artwork here. Okay. Meet Me in St. Louis. This was actually funny in terms of this is one of the first representations of Halloween on the screen. But I'm running out of time. What's to say with these things? Like I said, this is already 20 years ago. These are really good books on it. But Halloween, right? All Hallows Eve. What is the future of it? I told you what I want the future of it to be. But it's going to be for the people that live outside the cities. It's going to go back to being a harvest thing. Okay. It's very important. Okay, whereas in the cities, it's just going to be a decadent holiday of like I said, Carnival. I'm not putting Carnival down, but that's what it's probably gonna be. Okay, it cheapens it, but hey, that's America for you, all right? Happy Halloween. Later.